Before Ruth Osime became the Anna Wintour of Nigeria, she was the feared columnist behind Truth with Ruth. She said it as it is, or she said it as it was. Ruth hasn't changed, but then, of course, these days she's slicing it in fashion, as they say. So in 2005, Ruth Osime came on New Dawn. She was with Professor Fafunwa, who was professor of psychology, and she was with also Jerome, who used to be a regular on the show. And we were talking about money and men and women. I was quite pleased to find this episode with Ruth, Professor Fafunwa, and Jerome in 2005. Ruth, let me start with you. And it's actually two-dimensional. Love or money, beauty or virtue. What is it that can bind on a long run for love? In the first instance, why that? I remember that article very well where you wrote that it can't work where there isn't, some kind of financial stability. Is it the man having the financial stability or the woman or both ways? What really do you mean?
I still think it's unfortunate because I'm sure if we lived abroad, financial stability won't play such a major role because the economy is buoyant and it's quite solid. But unfortunately in Nigeria today, financial stability does play a major role because the basic necessities to even make us live comfortable, it's very important, and you can't do that without money. And you find that in most situations where money, there's lack of money, the relationship goes through more ups and downs than it would if there was some financial stability in between both parties. I'm not even from this old school of thought where the man has to be the one that pays all the bills, because that's been unrealistic. In Nigeria of today, the woman too also has to earn her salt. So basically, if the woman is willing to go that extra mile to make sure she can put food on the table, I expect the man to be able to meet her halfway. It fluctuates. There are times when the man is down and the woman is the one that is buoyant, or the woman is down and the man is the one that is buoyant. But the Bible itself says that the man is the head of the family. So I would not respect a man that would sit comfortably in a situation where the woman is the one footing all the bills. That is not to say that, the woman herself should rest her laurels and say she expects to live off a man. But basically, both parties need to have some form of money. For your generator to work, you need money. For your children to go to good schools, you need money. For you to fix your car when it breaks down, you need money. For you to pay your staff at work for you need money. So whichever way you look at it. This is not a system where we do higher purchase, where you can say, over time, even for you to even pay rent, you need money. Right. It's not abroad where you pay 1 month's rent 1 month in advance. You need 2 years' rent. For you to put furniture on the place, you need money. Right. So whether people like it or not, don't fall into that school where I wear rose-tinted glasses and believe, love can conquer all. What can kill love fastest is poverty or lack of money. Let's be realistic.
Right.
That's realistic.
Professor.
Yes, I must say that Ruth has been very down to earth. I just feel we need to qualify that. Because if you look at the genesis of love, how love develops, there are so many factors which affect development of love, or the genesis of love, affection. In terms of what women expect from men, or what ladies expect from gentlemen, we call it resource acquisition, which agrees with what Ruth has just mentioned. That includes the earning capacity. It includes things like maturity and ambitiousness. I won't say ambition now. But I would like to deviate slightly from that, in that there are some relationships in which at the beginning, ab initio, the man was nowhere financially. Maybe just manages to maintain himself. People like M.K. Abiola started like a very poor person. Same thing with Chief Iwanyanwu. These people were not born with silver spoons. So as much as I agree with Ruth's conception of a good relationship or initiation of relationship, we just have to take each case as it comes. Totally, as a rule, I agree with you, because money makes relationship. We need money for everything. Whatever your commitment, however socialist you are, you still depend on money for subsistence. But we just have to qualify it slightly.
Right. Jerome.
Right, like Professor said, when Abiola got money eventually, we noticed that Abiola was actually a giver. He gave. And he could have just become a giver suddenly. So even at the time that he didn't have all that money, he would have been able to give out of the little he had and was able to still sustain love.
Right.
Now, if love is a determination to do the other person good, sincerely, from you need money.
All right.
Important.
Okay, I want to go back a little from what Ruth said and what the professor said. You know, if let me give you a typical example. Perhaps you have a situation where there's an ambitious man, and he at that time doesn't have a lot of resources to even take care of his own needs. But there's a woman who has enough resources to take care of her needs. We've seen over times that this relationship don't work where the woman is the one, you know, who's the major provider financially. So is it what we're saying here? Let us qualify very clearly that for love to work on the long run, the man in particular, it seems, is it true that there's a, you mentioned that you said a woman, one of the requirements for love is that the man is ambitious, the man is you use sometimes that seems to nod me in the direction of thinking that the man by nature is expected to be a provider. Is that what you are saying? And is that in tandem with all that the world has become, where, you know, anybody in the house can be the provider? Would it work, for example, if it was a woman who was the provider and the man, you know, yes, accepting, and then until he finds his feet?
You find that when the woman is the provider, and so unfortunately, I come from that school where if the woman is the provider, the man should aim to take that mantle of her. Because the truth of the matter is, when a woman is the provider, she automatically now wears the cloak of a man. To the extent that subconsciously, even when the man voices certain opinions, her opinion holds more water because deep down, she's carrying the weight of the responsibility of running the home. So yes, there are periods where the man can go through a dry spell. But a man who is ambitious, a man who is not lazy, a man who has vision, a man who is ready to listen to when the woman advises him, should know that it is just a temporary phase and see it as that. And strive, you know, to take his responsibility as the man of the family. Because, and I also don't like a woman that is too ambitious, funny enough. Because when a woman is too ambitious, the man can never meet her at her goal. So there's always a breakdown of communication of sorts. Because how far are you ready to go to sacrifice your home? Because if you chase whatever career that it is that you want to chase, somehow or the other, it will affect the way you run your home. Because you're spending more time chasing your dreams and your ambitions than actually being the mother of the home. So how many men can take that? There's a sort of glass ceiling for women, I notice. That a woman can't be too excessively, to borrow that quote, successful, because she has to be able to balance running her home and also making sure that she's still a woman of the house. But that is not to say that the man himself should sit pretty and say, oh, my wife can do it. You know, the generator is not working and you're waiting for your wife to come back from work because you don't know where you're going to get money to fix it.
Right. I've got to ask this question. What is the baseline? You know, how do you know, for example, that this young man is somebody I should pitch my tent with? That, you know, on the long run, you know, no matter what the situation is, you know, how do I know for sure? Anybody can answer that question. Let me start with you, Professor, incidentally.
Well, when you talk of baseline of material status, I think this essentially is quite individualistic. Because we have different tastes, we have different perceptions, different levels of quality of life. Some women don't mind having just an average flat. The husband has a job security. They can afford 3 square meals. They can afford to send 1 or 2 children to school. They are not in debt. And there are reasonable chances that the little money coming in can be invested in the long term. I think these are just the rough criteria, but then it's highly individualistic. Depends on your level of taste and expectation from life. But I want to make a point, just an addendum to Ruth's comment about the woman being the breadwinner. It's quite common these days. It's just that we don't have accurate statistics. Most women will engage with all this plummeting economy. They will engage in reasonably small, modest jobs, barbing saloon, whatever they call it, basic merchandise activities. The man is all over the place chasing millions in Abuja, millions which will never appear. So at the end of the day, a woman gets 500 naira per day from barbing saloon or selling basic foods along the road, and with that, most families, I can say this in my practice, most families are maintained by the resourcefulness and the consistency of many wives. So it's a relative thing. I do agree the man should be the breadwinner. It's part of our cultural expectation. it may not be as powerful, it may not be as important in the developing countries in which you have social security, there's excellent national welfare policies, everybody is taken care of. But in the African situation, everybody has to fend for himself.
Right. Jerome.
If you have to go by personality styles, we all have different personality styles, or personal styles. If you go specifically using the DISC, you will find out that most steady supporter men who marry dominant director women usually have the dominant director women take charge more in the area of finance, and putting things down. But eventually, the steady supporter men are very good managers of the resources that is brought in.
Right.
And they have the capacity and the ability to multiply whatever she can bring in, because she may not be a very good manager of funds. And they're able to do that. But I think at a point whereby you find such a situation and the woman realizes that the man doesn't want to do anything at all, that's when she needs to be a bit more careful. But I think basically most men have this thing inside of them to want to take their place. They have this thing of wanting to, okay, I want to be the one in charge. And sometimes, I think with a bit of help, such men can actually do a lot more.
Right. Why, therefore, I mean, in this society, I hear lots of times with the men talk about the women. Actually, the Nigerian women have been labeled as highly materialistic. In fact, some people call Nigerian women invoicers because of this. That the Nigerian woman expects that a man should be able to take care of certain responsibility and all of that. So, if that's the natural role, why does it seem to be at variance with expectations? Why are the men unhappy with it? And in any case, does financial stability and monogamy go together? Most men who are able...
Exactly, look at Abiola.
Exactly. Most men who are therefore in a position to take care of their women seem unable to maintain... Does monogamy and financial stability... Can they not run... To pari passu, must they always run...
Yeah.
Parallel.
The funny thing is that you actually get some women who actually say that they almost prefer their husbands when their husbands didn't have that much money. Because let's face it, a rich man is like putting honey and bees. But see, the truth of the matter is that, let's go back to what you said about women that expect men to do so much for them. The truth of the matter is, if you as a woman are also financially independent and you are hardworking, there's a limit to how much you can take from any man just because you need money off him. What I resent are the women that will sacrifice their pride and dignity just because they must carry that designer bag. They must travel to England 4 times a year. They must live in the most expensive area. That's not so. It doesn't necessarily have to be so. I don't even believe that you have to look like $1 million to feel like $1 million. So I'm a strong advocate for a woman should be financially independent. But that is not to say that I would want a man to also be financially dependent on me.
Right.
Do you understand? I expect a man to know that, okay, we are going through tough stages right now, blah, blah, blah. But, you to aspire. But you see, where men have problems is that we women, we are ready to make the odd 100 here, make the odd 200 here, like my gentleman was saying, make the odd 300. But the man is sitting down waiting for 10 million naira contract to fall on his laps.
Right.
So those are the kind of men that have problems.
Right.
Because it's
but does that develop from, because you said something earlier where you said, if she's too ambitious, for example.
You see, I don't like, as much.
How do you balance your...
You have to find a balance.
Right.
Because you find that most women that are married, there's just a limit to how far you can go. Unless your kids have grown, they've gone to school, and you guys are middle-aged, and you're only together now. So you can maybe face your career more. But when you still have kids that you're bringing up, you have to be able to do homework with your kids once in a while. You have to be able to take them to school. You have to make them feel your presence in their lives. Right. And if you're chasing a career that is taking all that away from you, right, I think at the end of the day, in the long run, you, the woman, are the one that will lose.
Right.
So you have to find a balance of sorts.
Right. You
have to find how you can,
I'm trying to streamline all of these things so that we're able to arrive at clear definitions that might not work for everybody, because as you said, these things are individualistic.
Yeah,
really, what I want to understand is, how do you separate materialism from reality of that I'm in love with this person, but for this to work on the long run, these are the responsibilities of each person to make this unit work. I think what we want to identify are the responsibility of each person to make that unit work on the long run, and on the role that money, unfortunately we have to use the word money, but really it's about resources, in a country like this. What role exactly does it play? And that's what you have all said here.
We live in a very materialistic society whereby for you to be somebody as it were right now in Nigeria, you must have this, you must have that. You have to have
I don't really agree with
the
that.
biggest car. That's what's going on out there. You know, you have to have the biggest car. You have to wear the best kind of clothes. You have to carry the best kind of bags. People have come to, as it were, for now, think is the order of the day. That's what you must be. And because usually a lot of people, a lot of us might not still have an idea of the true meaning of love. We think love is about demanding, love is about taking, and all that. We do not understand yet that love is about giving. And so the avenue of really getting those things is true love. If you tell me you love me, then put me out there. Give me an opportunity to express myself. You know, I'm talking about the girls we're looking at.
So you're talking also that, about, for example, about, because I've just narrowed this down in my mind, that you're also talking about an environment that allows both parties to thrive. You know, you're talking about a person that supports you, you know, that supports you, because it's not necessarily about giving money. Is it the kind of person who would help you achieve your goals in life?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, in tandem with, you know, where both of you want to go.
Yeah, that's right.
For both partners.
That's right.
That's what you're talking about.
That's what it seems to have come down to.
Because I know a lot of situations where the man has a lot of money, you know, and the woman is not actualized.
He can have the money and doesn't even have time for the woman.
And doesn't have time.
And you find that such women go out there and look for men that have time for them.
And those men also who have that money will actually, if they're not giving it to their women, they'll go out to look for other women out there who are available to ask, and they will do it for them. You know, I mean, they will. I know a woman who told me once while I was counseling with her. She said, "Look, Jerome, I when I met my husband, you know, he didn't seem to have so much, but I thought he was a man going somewhere.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I started doing everything for him, but I didn't ask for anything. He never gave me any birthday card and all that. So I thought, okay, maybe that's just him. He doesn't know how to do those things. Then when he had a girlfriend, I realized that he knew how to do it much more than I thought he could do.
Because
he would give cards, he would do
true.
all of those things. Yeah, basically, you know. So she wasn't asking; the other lady could ask, so she got. But I'm not saying that's the norm. Okay, I'm just saying that is what is happening.
Well, then, doesn't it mean you didn't love her in the first? Because you said that love inspires you to want to do.
And just take
that's right.
You know, it was taken up. Professor, you were going to make a point.
Yes, just to chip in one or two things. We're talking about materialism and the relationship between man and woman. In our culture, as we have said a number of times, one expects the man to be the breadwinner, to provide at least the bulk of the needs for that family. Now, as long as the man is said to be working hard, to be ambitious, to be looking here and here for opportunities, to advance himself materially and be able to fend for the family, there should be no problem. Now, look at the wife of the Democratic presidential candidate, Mrs. Heinz Kerry. She made a lot of money, which she inherited from her parents in Switzerland before she came to America. And most of the money, a good chunk of what John Kerry spent for that, actually is official, was donation from the wife. I mean, she must have confidence in her husband. Apart from the husband becoming president, if she was successful, there was no love lost. So I don't think there's any problem in a woman on a temporary level, hoping that as time goes on, of course, not permanent. It's good for the man's ego. It's good for his image as a breadwinner to be able to fend for himself. Of course, at a fundamental level, if there's good love, you know, Funmi said earlier on that love is difficult to define. I didn't watch last week's program. It's a very complex thing. Nobody can define what love is. And when we talk of love, we are referring to things like infatuation, the orgy of love, the excitement, the thrill, which has no basis, which crumbles, love at first sight. But the love I'm referring to, which I would like to say to people, is companionate love. A love in which there's mutual sharing, mutual respect, respect for other person's deficits. You take the other person for what he or she is, not for what he or she ought to be. If we have that basis in a relationship, it doesn't have to be in a formal marital setting. It could be even cohabitation. People cohabited for years and years. They're very happy. They're as good as a couple that are already married. So we must address the fundamental issues of the stability of the love, and we must define precisely what type of love exists between a man and a woman.
Right. Okay. My mind slowed down there because I was trying to follow what Professor was saying very carefully, and that really is the point. Really, at the end of the day, that if you find a partner with whom you feel deeply enough to want to share, you know, your life with, go through the ups and downs with, that is the person. And the issue of money is not of paramount importance. It's not of paramount importance exactly how much it has now. That's not the point, because people have money now, they lose it all anyway. You know. So I'm now going to go to another point when we come back from the break. That, you know, we are alluded to it earlier on, that, you know, when Ruth said, you know, when there is no money, that's the fastest way love goes. The
It's
fact of the matter seems that love seems to go. Professor said earlier that, there's some kind of infatuation and then that one fades. So what is it that goes? You know what I mean? 1 minute you are sure you're in love with a person.
Yes.
You could die for the
see,
person. And then the next minute you're wondering, what am I doing here? What are those factors, you understand, that makes that happen? So that maybe we could prevent. You said specifically that, Ruth, that's you, that you said specifically that one of the fastest ways in which love can just simply disappear is when there's financial droughts,
like I was telling you earlier on, just before you went back on air, that the true man is tested when he has money. Any man can be nice when he's broke. In fact, that is when they love you most. Now, when they have money, are they as nice and as dedicated as they were to you when you were the one that was paying the bills? You were the one that was supporting him financially. You were the one that was carrying the responsibility. All of a sudden, now small change enters his pockets. He's seen at this place, he's seen at that place, he has bought this car, he's wearing that suit. That's what usually happens. So as much as any woman says, I'm not supposed to be a hypocrite and say, oh, love conquers all. Not at my age. And I believe that for most couples, unless you're still in your early 20s, and there's plenty of promise, plenty of hope. I'm sure when MKO met Sibi Asabiola, he was very young. But you cannot tell me now in your mid-40s and almost 50 that, oh, God will provide, and we'll see how it goes. At what age? So you have to, as you get to each level in life, the fact remains that as long as you, the woman, are not sitting down pretty, expecting manna to fall from heaven, or expecting some man to pick up your tabs, you should be with a man that has the same vision as you, that is equally as whatever. I also encourage the younger ones that, don't expect the man to have it all at the same time. Because we ourselves, when we were younger, there was a limit to what you expected of men.
Right.
So a young girl in her 20s who's getting married and married to a young man as well should give him time. Give him 5 years, 10 years, starts from a supervisor in the office, then becomes a manager, then becomes a GM. It's all a gradual process.
All right, Ruth. All right, ladies and gentlemen. However, this young man and young woman get married, and she's understanding and she's standing with him, and a few years down the line, it all begins to fall apart. What are the factors? You've identified one. What are the factors that contribute towards souring love? What are those things? How does it go from hero to zero? Professor?
Thank you very much. This is a very complex thing. I want to start with the basics. Was there a genuine love in the first place?
Or infatuation?
Or infatuation. There are various types of love. We've talked about passionate love, which is otherwise called infatuation, which is more of thrills, excitement, a sort of orgy of emotionality. So we have to ask that question. Were they genuinely in love? Or were there other earthly, carnal issues binding them together? This is one of the problems we have in the caste system in Asian countries, particularly India and Nepal, where parents choose a partner for their son or daughter. So that is the first question we have to ask ourselves. Was there a genuine love between them? A sort of love which is based on mutual sharing, mutual respect, acceptance of the other person for what he is or not what he ought to be. Then number two, what has been going on in that relationship, whether openly or secretly? The two main factors which can make love to sour, I think you said from something to zero.
From hero to zero.
From hero to zero, or ground zero, whatever it is, from skyscraper, is unfaithfulness, whether real or imagined. There is some unfaithful behavior which is objective, it is clear, it's happening. But some people, because of their emotional difficulties, mental problems, they sort of conjure this suspiciousness in their head and believe with conviction that the other party is unfaithful. We call it morbid jealousy. And the person tries to look for evidence which is non-existent, checks his wife's bags secretly at night, looks under the bed when he comes from work in case the boyfriend of the wife or the girlfriend is hiding there. We know that. So that's a category on its own. And apart from that, if you have a husband who is an alcoholic, who comes home and batters the wife, who is irresponsible, is not alive to his commitment in the home, that too can make the love to sour. So we're talking about innumerable factors which are there and which could sort of crumble a home. And of course, don't forget the issue of fall in social status, fall in material status. When there's hunger, when there is a scarcity, that encourages either of the two partners to look for another person outside. So these are the factors which can cause ground zero. But the most important thing is that, was there genuine love in the first instance? If there was genuine love, a lot of people can still stick it up with their partner and manage to weather the storm, so to speak, hoping that in the future life will be brighter.
Right, Jerome.
Yeah, I would want to say, first of all, personality differences. You know, my personality different from yours and from mine. I don't understand it. And so I'm going to keep thinking, most of the things you do it deliberately to hurt me. Your intention, not necessarily your. So, as languages, we have what we call the language of love. Basically, a lot of times, I might be loving you the way I want you to love me, while you are loving me the way you want me to love you. And in the process, we're not really getting anywhere. And if I don't learn how you want to be loved, and you learn how I want to be loved, we're going to have serious problems. Also, we will need to also understand emotional needs. Very vital. You know, every personality style has different emotional needs. I mean, both of you are females, but you'll be surprised to know that by the time you go through personal assessments, we get to understand your emotional needs. We realize that high emotional needs might be different from your emotional needs. If I've dated at one time, and I know what our emotional needs are, and I leave her, and I'm getting to date you, and I don't understand I think, because this is what our emotional needs were, that should be the same thing for you, I'm going to get into trouble. And these things make love go sour, you know, sometimes.
So really, the problem with love is that you need to be a professor of psychiatry, you know, a counselor and all of that to be, because if I don't get it, I mean, you meet a person, you just feel something for the person. How do you know? I've seen, you've identified many in my mind, you know, the factors. I've narrowed it down. Number one, fall in social status, you know, which is also a bit like what Ruth is saying.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't meet up to the expectations. You know, I mean, because we are all social animals, you know, the way this person wants to live, the kind of life she wants or the kind of life he wants, both if you're not able to meet up to it one way or the other. Infidelity, whether
this is a very key point.
Infidelity.
Some women have low thresholds for infidelity.
Exactly, and professors, you said then that infidelity can be actual, can be, you know, real or imagined, and all that, and then Jerome, you spoke about personality differences, right. You know, being able to identify, because this is a continuous thing. Because I've also said that sometimes our needs change, our emotions, or we were not the same person we were 5 years ago or 10 years ago, which is why I used to argue that men always go back to the young girl who hasn't found herself yet. Because as you find yourself more.
Because the woman becomes more assertive and more sure of herself.
Okay, so now in the area of, you know what I mean, wherever
vision too can also break up a relationship.
What?
Vision, if you have different visions, you don't have the same focus. Your visions differ.
Right. So in the course, because this is an area, I mean, it's like walking on a tightrope. You know, what then should be the guiding principles? Number one, you said earlier that first was there love in the first place. This is common sharing and all of that, not the giz love. I mean, I like giz. You know, and I also want a bit of giz throughout. You know what I mean? And we also want a bit of giz throughout. Everyone likes
so mechanical.
I mean, can't be mechanical. Every day I'm supporting, you are supporting. So what? I mean, give me some romance.
Everyone likes giz.
You know, so really, to start with, you know, how do you identify, you know, in your own opinion, each and every one of you, this person that I want to go the long haul with, you know, and how do you maintain all of this throughout this long haul? And is there a time to simply call it quits?
I personally think that as you get older, you learn from experiences, because that's the best teacher there is. You know, so maybe certain things that you couldn't take before, you might take more now. Not necessarily because you are compromising your stand as a person, but because you've looked into it and you've realized that maybe this person can't meet up to my expectations in this area, but he can meet up to my expectations in other areas. So you're now willing to find a balance of sorts. You're not so rigid and so straightforward and say, oh, if you can't meet this, then that means it. I suppose you're not as quick to throw in the towel as you probably would have done 10 years ago, because you have matured, you have become more sensible, and you can now look at things from a deeper perspective, you know. And apart from one coming across as if a man has to have money all the time, there's some men who don't even have much, but what they do for you compensates for the fact that they don't give you money.
Right.
You know, they're there for you morally. They are there to massage your back when you've had a long day at work. They're there to send you lovely texts when you're feeling down. So sometimes it's not just the money, because there are other men who can give you this money, but they can't even remember your birthday. Or they don't call you and they tell you they're busy. And to even get them, you know that you have to go through 20 secretaries before you can even get him to even answer your call. Do you understand? So you are the one that has to weigh and say to yourself, okay, he might have so much money, but would he really be there for me on a long-term basis? Okay, this one might not have so much money, but he's my friend. He makes me laugh. He goes to see my mother. He goes to see my sisters. He's interested in my business. He knows. So you find a balance.
Right.
Of sorts.
Jerome.
I think.
Yeah, I believe strongly you're going to wait. Then the question is, how do you know this person really loves me? Usually, you see in this person the determination to do you good.
Yeah.
Not to wrong you, not to do you terrible things, as it were. And he wants to do you good by really getting interested in who you are. He wants to know you.
Would that kind of person sometimes hurt you? For example, you also use the term low threshold for infidelity.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you should have some kind of tolerance for infidelity and things like that?
Well,
or
have some form of tolerance for infidelity?
Well, such a person, yes, can hurt you, can hurt you basically. But having said that, you made a mention of something just now. You said, do you have to be a professor of psychiatry or do you have to be a counselor for you to know what love is? I don't think so.
You know how to manage life with love throughout.
Yeah, but I think you need the services of a psychiatrist and sometimes the services of a counselor. It's very important when you're dealing with things like this.
So you shouldn't be afraid to get help.
Yes.
You shouldn't be afraid to get help.
No, not at all.
Okay,
Not at all.
Professor.
Right. I just want to buttress Ruth's point about expressions of love. I'm a man. I don't want to be anti-man. And I can't change myself, not even through any operation. You see, in my experience, a lot of people have made this claim that African men generally don't express love properly. There are two ways of expressing love. By, from time to time, expressing affection at certain period, birthday, for instance, cards, Valentine's Day, and other important milestones in the life of their partner. I think it's a cultural deficit that we have. But apart from that, there is this other aspect which we sometimes lose sight of. Many people choose their boyfriend or girlfriend or their life partner unconsciously. There are certain unconscious needs which we are not aware of. I think they tie with Jerome's emotional needs. You see, I had a friend, I don't know where he is right now, when we were much younger. He will pick the same type of lady. There's this consistency in the physical profile of the lady she chooses. Surely short and rotund. I didn't realize at that point. We used to make just of Bayo. Bayo, very funny. Why do we always choose the rotund person? And we're all modern people anyway. In modern time, the typical beauty, tall, slim person, with moderate bulges and so on and so forth. Later on, when I came to read psychology and psychiatry, I now realized that, look, that was how his mother was.
Mother syndrome.
Precisely. And you see, we choose based on certain intangible unconscious forces. Or like a lady who had 3 husbands at different times. Her first husband died. The second one, it was a divorce. And then the third husband. If you look at these 3 husbands, they're all 20 years older than her. And it was quite evident that she chose this man because of the search for father figure.
Right.
So these are other areas to which we don't know about, which perhaps a counselor or a psychologist can interpret to us.
Right.
And I think it's very important to do.
Okay, so if I were to do a summary, it would be therefore that, a lot of times we need a lot of emotional stability to even start. And to have emotional stability as a person, you must understand your own self.
Yes. Right.
You must, and if it means seeking help, to understand yourself so that you are able to identify clearly the kind of person that will meet your deep unspoken needs.
That's right.
Do you understand? And that person also, you have to make him understand what your deep unspoken needs are. To keep the love growing, therefore, no matter what happens.
Is important.
When I say you have to be able to communicate it to him. To therefore keep it going is the ability of both of you to continuously, through thick and thin, meet those deeper emotional needs. So that when once in a while there might be what I call deviant behavior on both sides, you will be able to carry on because you know that this person has your deep emotional welfare
from his
from his heart, from his heart in our hand, for both of you, male or female.
Yes.
And so all these other factors, you'll be able to deal with them because they will come. Sometimes you'll have money, other times you won't have money.
Yeah,
sometimes his mother will be nice, sometimes she won't be nice. Sometimes, sometimes one girl might come from somewhere, sometimes she won't. And sometimes a man might come from somewhere, sometimes he won't. Because I think people forget that women too also sometimes find fascinating young, complicated men.
Yeah. For the fun of it, like
of course,
there are bound to be temptations here and there, but it's just the stability of your personality that sustains you.
Yeah, true.
Right. The stability of the person, very important.
Right,
Yes.
Stability of the person, and we have to find it. It's strange that if it was, jam and things like we prepare for it, but we never prepare for the things that are most important in our life. Even motherhood, you never really prepare for it.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
Or fatherhood.
That's right, yes.
All right, thank you very much.